Have you always had the feeling that something is a little bit different? Your daughter may be smart, even chatty, but routines throw her off. Keeping her socks on is just super hard, and friendship feels complicated. You brought it up before to a teacher or even a doctor, but you've heard that she will grow out of it, that she's doing okay in school. Today, I wanted to highlight the fact that girls are diagnosed way older than boys in most of the settings for both autism and ADHD. And in this video, I wanted to summarize why they are diagnosed late and what can we look out for our girls. The average age for girls is 7 to 8 years old for autism, while boys is 4 to 5 years old. The average age for girls being diagnosed for ADHD is even worse, 12 to 15 years old, while boys being diagnosed 7 to 9. Why are girls often missed in those diagnoses? There are a couple of reasons. Let's unfold them all. First, the traits can be different in girls compared to boys. However, most of the diagnostic guidelines are gathered in the older days where the statistics are highly biased towards boys. A stereotype of ADHD is that they're running around, they're impulsive, they can't sit still, and they talk over other people. But for girls, they don't usually look that way. They're probably not disruptive at all. They are probably labeled for things like emotional, or they are not paying much attention. They can't stay on task. But all of this are actually just a sign of ADHD, or AuDHD is just not being labeled correctly. For girls, even repetitive patterns can be a little bit more subtle. For example, instead of line up their toys in the specific way, they could be just repeating the same story over and over. And the second reason is that girls tend to mask early on, and they're more adaptable in social conditions. They copy what others do to fit in, even when it's not comfortable. They try to follow all the rules in school, but then they get big meltdowns when they get home. That's why teachers don't usually flag it early, because they don't really notice anything off in school. But girls are really overwhelmed after the whole day of masking, and then when they finally got home, they have a big meltdown. Girls with autism and ADHD, they learn early on that being different can have social consequences. So they try to observe, study, copy what their peers do, and they try to do exactly that. But they don't really understand what they're doing. They just copy without understanding. They're learning the social frames that they have to follow. It's really exhausting for them. It's like they have to perform in the social groups so that they can get through the day. And the third reason, which is very unfortunate, is a lot of girls get misdiagnosed early on. It's common for girls being diagnosed for depression, OCD, anxiety, eating disorder before they are diagnosed correctly for ADHD or autism. All of these symptoms are a side effect of all this masking and burnout. The sad truth is many women have been taking the wrong treatment for all these other diagnoses before they finally find out they're just ADHD. So what to look out for our little girls in the early days? First, they could be very sensitive to certain sensory input. For example, if they don't like certain types of clothing, or they prefer a specific type of clothing, or they are very sensitive to certain types of sound, noise, or they're very picky in the texture of the food. All of these are sensory processing differences that could be related to either ADHD or autism. Second thing is they can be very sensitive to certain types of facial expressions. You might hear your little girl say that so-and-so doesn't like me because she observed a small facial expression or a change in the tone when this person spoke to her. The third sign is they can feel anxious. If they feel always on the edge, and small things can trigger big reactions or emotions or meltdowns, that could be because they're exhausted. All of the masking, learning, performing at school or in social settings, they're just not comfortable themselves. Another sign is they could have very strong sense of justice. If they feel very strongly against unfair, or they get very upset if someone didn't follow the right way, that could be a sign of autism. Another sign is you could observe big meltdowns for very tiny triggers. They are mentally exhausted all the time. The ADHD part of them can also be very sensitive for small triggers. Sometimes you will feel that they are unreasonable for being so emotional for small things. Well, it's not small things for them because they have been accumulating it inside and it finally spill out. The last one is that they could finally get a burnout. What it will look like is they could have been okay for years and all of a sudden they just can't cope. This is actually common for grade 2 when they just can't cope anymore. They just don't want to go to school. Any of this sounds familiar? You are not alone and you're probably not imagining it. Girls with ADHD and autism are often overlooked in the early years because the complexity of the traits and how it's just a little different from the stereotypical traits, and because they're working really hard to look okay. The earlier we recognize it, the sooner they get help, the easier it is for them down the road. If you have observed something similar or have some questions, please drop a comment below. I would love to hear from you. If you're wondering what are the signs of AuDHD, watch this other video where I cover the traits of AuDHD. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.